What's going on YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you another video. Today I'm bringing a video on Power Rangers Ninja Steel episode 20. This is for the season finale of Power Rangers Ninja Steel. Now, for those who do not know, there is going to be a Christmas episode coming out December 2nd. Usually, holiday episodes are filler. They're just there because they're there. They don't typically add to the overall story. They're just because they want to have another episode. This time, it isn't that way. They're actually going to be there for an actual reason. Which I'm not, which now after seeing this episode, I'm a little confused as to how this would even work in some ways. But again, that might be the reason why I might have to go and watch the Christmas episode because of what happens at the end of the episode. And I'll get into that at the end. So anyway, what ends up happening is that the episode is called Galvanax Rises. We end up seeing that, in the previous episode, Victor and Monty used the magnet, which ended up getting the ninja stars, and Galvanax ends up capturing them and taking the magnet for himself. In the meantime, eventually the Rangers do appear in this episode and go to attack Galvanax. They end up morphing and fighting him because the only thing that they have left is their own power stars, pretty much. So they end up fighting him, which actually leads to them, Galvanax summoning the Kudabots to fight the Rangers, and eventually Galvanax pulls out the magnet and steals each of their power stars, starting off with Sarah and Preston, and then following that, taking Calvin's, and then Levi and Haley's. So then, after that, the only one that's left is Brody. And the thing is that the 5 other Rangers get captured and then brought back to Galvanax's ship. And in the meantime, when Brody goes to deal with Galvanax, he realizes that he's in a really bad situation and eventually pulls out his gun weapon to destroy the magnet, leading to him having an advantage at that moment. And then Galvanax wants to attack him, but then Mick appears and he has with him a katana, or like a sword, that we end up finding out later is actually Brody's father's sword. So at that point, Mick ends up attacking the Kudabots and helping Brody out, and then he ends up giving Brody the only other ninja star that they have, which is the star for their bike, for one of the bike stars. So they end up using that to retreat, and in the meantime, we end up seeing on the base that the Rangers are tied up in front of the Galaxy Warrior Dome Arena, where Cosmo always speaks, and they're there. And following that, we also see in the meantime that Cosmo and the people that are in the audience are all really happy to see the Rangers have been captured. In the meantime, what we also see is Victor and Monty are helping make a new magnet that will be used to destroy Galvanax and the Rangers. But the thing is that when Madame Odious tells them this, they're okay with Galvanax being destroyed, but they're not okay with destroying the Rangers because they're heroes and they respect them. So at that point, they realize, we wouldn't have made this magnet if it weren't for if we knew that the Rangers were going to be destroyed when this was used. So at that point, what happens is that they realize they have to sneak off the ship and get away, and their thought is to use the Kudabot outfits to sneak off the ship. So we end up seeing that, and I'm just going to say what happens with that whole thing. Basically, what we do see is eventually they do manage to do that, and we'll get into what happens there later on. So following this, we end up hearing from the Ninja Com that Redbot's still alive, and he tells Mick and Brody, who are in like some random field, that the asteroid from the previous episode is still heading towards Earth, and we could use it. And so at that point, Mick is really happy because he thinks he could take the Ninja Steel from the asteroid and turn it into new ninja stars, which can allow them to get back their weapons and different Zord stars that they need. So they're happy about that, but Galvanax overhears that, and then he appears before Brody, and at that point he basically says, I have 2 choices for you. Either you give me your power star or I destroy your friends. Because at that point he ends up summoning the other Rangers, and that leads to Brody having 2 choices. Now, what we do see at that point is Brody remembering the time that his father had the choice of giving up the Nexus Prism, or like in the past during the first episode, or fighting for what he believed in. And what he did was he actually destroyed the Ninja Nexus Prism. So what he decides to do is do something similar to that, which is that he destroys his own Power Star by throwing it up in the air, and then he grabs the ninja blade that Mick had and slashes through it. And then at that point, what happens is that it splits into 3 pieces, and then a huge burst of energy comes out around the area, and then Brody disappears. So then, at that point, the Rangers actually are still tied up and captured by the Kudabots, and we suddenly see the Ninja Nexus Prism appear. When the Ninja Nexus Prism appears, Galvanax realizes that this happened last time, but what we see is that rather than the 6 Ranger stars, we actually see 3 Red Ranger Power Stars appear. And the Rangers and even Galvanax are like, how can this be? How can there be 3 Red Ranger Power Stars? So at that point, 2 of them come out of the Ninja Nexus Prism and begin to attack the Kudabots and even Galvanax. And at one point, when they attack the Kudabots, eventually the 5 Rangers that were tied up get freed, and suddenly we see the Rangers appear. And it is 2 Red Rangers. One, which is Brody, and the other is another character that's really exciting to see. It's going to be one of the other Reds, which is Mick. Mick, yes, he's going to be a Red Ranger. Now, what we do see, which is really cool also because he was in Power Rangers SPD through Jungle Fury, and during SPD he actually got to be the Orange Ranger for like 1 episode, so this is technically his second color, the actor at least. So anyway, what ends up happening is that they do end up fighting Galvanax, and eventually the last Power Star appears in front out of nowhere, and it is the other Red Ranger, which is Dane, Brody, and Levi's father. So at that point, we have these 3 Red Rangers, and we have the rest of the team unmorphed, and eventually they decide, because when the 3rd Power Star appears, Galvanax has his belt, which has the 5 Rangers Power Stars on it, and what happens is that when the 3rd Power Star appears, it ends up knocking the belt over, and suddenly the 5 Rangers take their Power Stars back. So then at that point, all the Rangers morph, and we see an 8 Ranger team situation, which is really cool. So at that point, the 8 Rangers fight Galvanax, and eventually Galvanax takes this bucket that he had that held all the Power Stars in it originally, not the Power Stars, the Ninja Stars, and suddenly melts down all the Ninja Stars into Ninja Steel, and he decides, rather than making Ninja Stars out of it, he decides to just drink the Ninja Steel in its liquid state, and which gives him extremely powerful strength, but it's completely dangerous. So after drinking all that, what happens is that Galvanax is really powered up, and when the Rangers try to do some team attacks, they don't really do much to him. So then at that point, what happens is that we end up seeing on the ship Cosmo being asked by Galvanax to gigantify him. So at that point, Galvanax is gigantified, and then following this, we end up seeing Cosmo being spoken to by Victor and Monty dressed up in Kudabot outfits. Now during that time, they're speaking, and the thing is that Cosmo's like, wait, Kudabots aren't supposed to be able to talk. And at that point, they realize, he realizes that they can't be real Kudabots, and they take off their helmets, and it's revealed to be Victor and Monty. So at that point, we end up seeing Madame Odious appear, and she wants to get them, and then Cosmo wants to get them, but then for some reason Monty is really gassy, so he starts to fart, leaving them without a way to really deal with them, because they have to worry about like the smell and everything. So at that point, the 2 of them go to the command button that allows them to get off the ship and disappear. Now, I'll tell you this much right now. It really bothered me that they decided to do this whole thing with the farting, mainly because up until that point, they seem to be redeeming themselves. They seem to be characters that actually could have been really good in this episode. This could have been like their redemption. This could have been, okay, we're going to actually have like good developed out minor characters, which we could have and should have gotten. Unfortunately, this fart joke really, really, really saddened a lot of people because, you know, people always say, oh, it's a fart joke, a fart joke, a fart joke with them. This was like a fart joke. This was completely a fart joke, and it really, really showed that they went, you know, 5 steps forward and then 10 steps back, basically meaning they went backwards as far as characters go. And it really, really saddened me because there were some really good moments in this episode and some of the more recent episodes that made it seem like they were going to be redeemed as characters and make people want to actually like them a lot more than they are like now. But no. And that really is unfortunate for me. So anyway, following this, what ends up happening is the Rangers end up trying to fight Galvanax, and at one point, Madame Odious appears with the magnet that was made before, and uses it on Galvanax. Now, Galvanax has Ninja Steel in him, and this new magnet is really, really strong, so it manages to attract Galvanax, even though he's in this gigantified form. Thing is that this magnet also attracts the Rangers' weapons and everything, but what we also see is, but they actually managed to hold on to their weapons, and eventually the asteroid that was coming towards Earth or whatever, that has Ninja Steel on it, actually smashes into the Galaxy ship and launches the ship a distance away, leaving it into a complete state of disaster and destruction. And at that point, the Rangers then have to continue the fight. So they begin to do all that. Doesn't look very good. At one point, what ends up happening is that what do you call it? The Ninja Nexus Prism appears and begins to start spinning like crazy. At that point, they remember that it's sort of like their ninja spin morph attack. So they end up all using that attack together, all 8 of them, plus the Ninja Nexus Prism, to attack Galvanax, and each one of them goes one after another, attacking Galvanax, and eventually Galvanax is destroyed. So then, at that point, the Rangers are happy to know that they managed to destroy Galvanax, but when they go to the Ninja Nexus Prism that actually falls after slashing through Galvanax, it begins to fall apart and eventually turns to dust. At that point, their the 6 Ranger Power Stars turn to dust, and so do Dane and Mick's Power Stars. They also turn to dust. We don't see theirs. We do see the 6 other Rangers Power Stars turn to dust, though. But you would assume that both would be the case. Now, one thing I forgot to also mention when it came to Dane was that the thing that kept him alive this whole time was the Ninja Nexus Prism. It was keeping him alive as far as his spirit goes. And he really did actually get hurt during that initial explosion. So anyway, following all this, what we do end up seeing is the Rangers are like, what are we going to do now? And then in the meantime, we end up seeing at the school that Victor and Monty get to speak to some news reporters about how they were the only people that have ever survived a monster attack and gone on the ship and everything, and how they managed to survive it, and how they used a special scent to deal with the monsters, and that made them afraid of Victor and Monty. So that was something to note. Now, as far as things go, following this, we end up seeing at the campfire site that they used during the episode when it was revealed that Levi was Aiden and all that. We see that campfire site again, and this time we actually hear at the very beginning of that of the end sequence that Levi explains how there was the robot, which was the robot Aiden that had his memories inside him and everything, and how they had to destroy it so that he could get back his memories. And that basically filled in what happened to him. So then, following this, Mickey explains that he's going to be going back to the Lion Galaxy to help out there and see his parents and everything, and he has a taxi coming for him. So shortly after that, he ends up teleporting away, and as far as things go, we don't know when he's going to return. It could be that he'll return first episode, because what's supposed to happen in the Christmas episode is that they're going to get back their Power Stars. So what might happen is that he might return like very beginning of the season, or it might be that he'll show up late into the season. I don't know yet, but I'll tell you this much right now. next episode is supposed to answer that question with the Christmas episode. Additionally, we end up seeing the Rangers sing Brody and Levi's father's song, and Brody, Levi, and Dane all play guitar on each of their own guitars, and the Rangers sing with them, and the episode basically ends there. So as far as things go, really good episode. There were some things that really upset me, specifically with Victor and Monty, because of how they treated them as characters, but as a whole, I would say that I'm not upset. I think that this episode was really good. There's a lot of things that were great about it. Ninja Steel as a whole has been a very mixed bag, a lot of really good things and a lot of things that really could have gone a lot better than they did. I don't want to deny that either way. As far as things go, with my opinion, again, not my favorite season ever, but definitely one of the seasons that I have some respect for in a number of places. I am going to be doing a final thoughts video following this, which will be my final thoughts of Ninja Steel, not Super Ninja Steel, but just Ninja Steel as a whole from what we've seen so far. Again, next year there will be Power Rangers Super Ninja Steel, which will be the follow-up season, which will be for the 25th anniversary of the franchise, which will also have an anniversary episode and cameos from past Rangers, so keep that in mind. As far as things go otherwise, I want to say this. I'm glad to know that we're practically done with Power Rangers Ninja Steel other than the Christmas episode, which I may or may not review just because I'm not sure if I really want to, and I already know what's going to happen for the most part. But as far as things go, I'm just looking forward to knowing that this is done with, just because of the fact that, not that I haven't enjoyed it, but in a lot of ways, this year has been seen as the year of the movie, which will basically be how it will be referred to, I'm sure, in future years, because a lot of attention was given towards advertising towards that rather than towards Ninja Steel, which really led to the show not getting as much positive attention and good work done on it in comparison to a lot of prior seasons. And I think with Super Ninja Steel, with it being the 25th anniversary, with it being not having to compete with itself with the movie and everything, I think the advertising will be much more focused on where it needs to be, and it will be a better thing overall. Again, as far as the show goes, I don't know. Hopefully the show will be really good. I mean, unfortunately, super seasons have been up and down. Some have been okay, and some of them have been really awful. Unfortunately, Dino Supercharge and Super Mega Force have been two really recent super seasons which have not done very well. So those are two examples that, I'm hoping that the super season this time will actually be for once actually really good, because super seasons don't always do very well. So I'd love to hear your opinions. Are you guys looking forward to the super season? Did you guys enjoy Ninja Steel? Did you guys enjoy this episode? And what are your guys' thoughts on the future of the show? Are you liking it? And again, I will be doing a final thoughts video following this. So please remember to like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you guys think. I'll see you guys in the next video. So, guys, I'm Crazy Samurai 71, and goodbye, guys.